are back. We are.
Last Friday, first off, I got sunglasses on because I went to the doctor, and I'm at home. I'm not at work. It's just, to go to the doctor in Clearwater, to drive into Brandon, to go to Brandon for an hour or two to come back. Millie's not all about that. And Millie,
Because your future's so bright, you gotta wear shades.
Yeah, well, it's just I'm sitting in my backyard out on the patio, and it's very bright out, and so I got the Terminator shades on because
man.
otherwise I can't really see.
Yeah.
I did not smoke marijuana. All right, so welcome back to another edition of Live Feed Reed. I'm your host, Paul Reed, with the Ed McMahon to my Johnny Carson, Jason Crawford appearing live from Tallahassee.
That's right.
It is, I don't even know what today, May the 1st.
It is. It's not gonna be May.
1 o'clock.
It is
I'm
May.
going to start a little levity to start the program. I was sitting, you know how like Seinfeld said, first you go to the main lobby, you check in, you sit there, you wait for your name to be called Paul, and you're like, hey, I'm up. And then you go into the little room and you wait another 20 minutes for the nurse practitioner, the doctor, whomever to come in. So I'm in their room and I'm going through my reels on Instagram, and this one little girl comes on, and it was hilarious. She says something to the effect, well, if you drink, you get drunk.
Okay.
And if you get drunk, you go to sleep. And if you go to sleep, you don't sin. So it's good to drink.
Amen.
And so my friends and I live by that motto.
Yeah. That's a good motto.
I thought that was pretty good. I thought it was so funny. I heard it an hour ago, and I'm telling it on Live Feed Read.
Yes.
All right. So jumping into today's topic is gerrymandering. And I asked Jason when we came on, do you know what it means? And he lied. Sure. Sure, kind of. I know what it is.
Sort of.
Yeah.
I know enough to get in trouble.
And sort of means I have no idea. I've heard the word, but I can care less and don't know what it is. But
like most people,
it's basically applies to the state of Florida and other states and to the United States of America. How it applies to the state of Florida is it decides in Hillsborough County and Polk County and Miami, and they divide the state up into 30 or 40 districts, and it decides who gets to vote in those districts and who they vote for. Obviously, in Florida, we're more of a Republican state now, and I believe we're up to 2-1. And so, it's heavily our legislature is heavily a Republican. It's like 80-20 or 30. It's almost a super majority. Of course, we have a governor that's Republican, but again, the gerrymandering really doesn't affect the governor or the president. It basically affects at the federal level the Congress, and it's the House of Representatives. Okay, because the senators, there's only 2 of them per state. So the gerrymandering doesn't really affect them. It affects the federal level, the House of Representatives, the 435 people that go there. And so what happens is and maybe you know this, but every 10 years, you hear the census. They count the people. They take it very seriously. I've had them when I was in Tampa. They come to your door if you don't respond to that little flyer they sent out in the mail, and they'll knock on the door, and they'll ask you who lives here, how many people live here, their ages, their race, creed, color, this, that, and the other, because it matters.
Yeah,
it matters because the more people you have in a given state at the federal level, the more representatives you have.
Right.
Just that simple. And then depending on the number of people in that state that are Republican versus Democrat, the more representatives you end up with at the federal level. Okay, so that's kind of what gerrymandering is. Every 10 years, they count people to give representation at the federal level and the state level. Go ahead. I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah. So I did Google something.
Okay.
Because I don't like being dumb, so I did sneak a Google in there.
Okay.
And it turns out the first time this term came about was in 1812 Massachusetts.
Interesting.
Governor Eldridge Gerry and one of the editors in the local paper said that he redrew the district and it looked like a salamander. It was all odd shaped. So gerrymander became that's how the term came about.
All right.
Yeah.
And
I
it's funny,
was like, wow, that's cool.
we'll skip around a little bit, but it's funny. Back to that salamander term,
Yeah.
and I'll talk about it. But in Florida, we had the fair district mandate. We had two constitutional amendments. Let me see, Article 3, Section 20 and 21, and one of them says basically these amendments prohibit drawings that intentionally favors or disfavors a political party, basically, or also provides protections based on race and language, minorities. Okay, so that's what the two Florida constitutional amendments did. All right. Well, of course, like all laws, amendments, so forth and so on. In this case, they were challenged, and the first challenge was the Florida Fair District Amendment was the race-based one.
Okay.
Okay, so that was first.
Okay.
And it basically the example they used was, if you know where Jacksonville is.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
Top right of the state.
Yep.
Then you have I-10 that goes from Jacksonville all the way to Alabama, Louisiana. What's that? Whatever's the next one's beside us.
Oh, up.
Okay, and then Tallahassee is a couple hundred miles away.
Yeah.
Well, they drew a congressional map that basically was Jacksonville up here.
Yeah.
There was a line on I-10 and Tallahassee over here. That was a congressional district.
Okay.
Okay. So it wasn't by Jacksonville and below it.
Yeah.
It was Jacksonville at this top part of the state, follow I-10 till you get to Tallahassee. And the reason is simple. And is Jacksonville has a minority population, and so does Tallahassee, or at least enough that those two entities or those two districts would vote Democrat. Who we kidding? And that's just the way it worked. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was challenged, and the Florida Supreme Court said, yeah, that violates the Equal Protection Clause of the United States of America. You can't do it. Okay. So race-based gerrymandering was found to be unconstitutional, basically from the Florida's Constitution, the Article 2, Section 20, I think it was 21. All right. So that's out.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
right. So as you're aware, California just redrew their maps.
Yep.
To favor Democrats.
Right.
Virginia just redo theirs to favor Democrats.
Yep.
Texas redo it to favor Republicans. I forget up north, so everyone's doing it now and Florida just passed ours literally 2 or 3 days ago to favor the GOP, the Republicans as well, because it's just to get control of the House of Representatives and Congress. You're with me?
Yes.
So when you hear gerrymandering, that's what they're wanting to do. They want to divide up the states, redraw them so they can get representation in Congress to have the majority.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. So let's move back to Florida now. Okay. So we have the two the fair districts amendments, two of them. One we already know that we just talked about was held to be unconstitutional based on the Equal Protection Clause of the United States. So it's out. So we're going to go to the race-based gerrymandering. Can't do it. You're out. X on the spot.
Okay.
All right. So now the legislative body, and will be signed, if not signed by DeSantis, redrew the map, but not every 10 years, which is kind of what is another beef, is all these states they would do it based on population after 10 years. But their argument is, especially Florida, well, after COVID, which was 2019, 2021,
Yeah.
all of the people moved to Florida.
And they did.
So we really don't have an
Yeah.
equal say at the federal level because we have more people. And so we're going to count them now versus waiting until 2030. You with me?
Right. Yes, I am. That makes
If
sense.
you have
Yeah.
more people, you should have more say
Sure.
in your government.
Sure.
I get that.
Yep.
All right. So that's just the argument.
Yeah. Right. I get the argument. Yeah,
Okay.
I do understand it. Yes.
So they passed the law,
Yeah.
redrawing the map, and now they're high-fiving and celebrating and thinking that's the end of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, but it's not.
Do tell.
Okay, well, the U.S. Supreme Court, basically because Louisiana recently, or maybe a year or two ago, because it takes a while to get to the U.S. Supreme Court, but Louisiana drew a race-based district.
Okay.
And of course they were challenged. So the district they drew was basically race. They picked this spot, said you're a district, therefore you would basically get a Democrat in that geographical.
Sure.
area.
Right. Okay.
So the whomever challenged it, and literally I think Wednesday the Supreme Court said no. Race-based, which our U.S. Supreme Court, our Florida Supreme Court already said this based on the Florida Constitution, but the U.S. Supreme Court said yes, race-based gerrymandering violates the Constitution. So all of you 50 states that may have Constitution, statutes, bills, or you name it, that gerrymanders based on race, you can't do it, right?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so that's out. So Louisiana, if you Google it, they're screwed. Because now they had early voting starting already and based on their state elections, but now those districts are null and void, so they don't know what to do. That's their problem. That's Louisiana. Cajuns can figure it out. All right. So in Florida, though, we still have Article 3, Section 20 that says, and this is the Constitution the people voted on back in 2010, and it was passed by 63%. And this Article 20 prohibits, again, like we had talked about, the intentionally favoring or disfavoring a political party.
Okay.
Well, the U.S. Supreme Court did not rule on that issue. They ruled on race-based issues.
Right.
The U.S. Supreme Court has not ruled on that issue. They based it on the Florida Constitution's. It's unconstitutional. Now it would be anyway, even if back in the day the Florida Supreme Court said that it's not unconstitutional, it would be now based on the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling 2 days ago. But either way, race-based is out, right?
Yeah.
But there's been no ruling by the federal U.S. Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, or the Florida Supreme Court on whether politically based gerrymandering violates that Florida constitutional amendment. All right. So
interesting.
The game's not over.
And they're not synonymous.
The boys in Tallahassee are thinking, and they drew it for basically 4 seats to give 4 seats to the GOP, the Republicans, take away 4 seats from the Democrats.
Okay.
And by the way, 3 of those seats would be right here in Tampa. The way they redrew it, 3 of them will shift from a Democrat, stronghold, so to speak, whatever term you want to use, to Republicans. So the newspaper here is blowing up,
Yeah. Well, that's just
it. Representation. Anyway, so here's the problem. If DeSantis hasn't signed the bill yet, because it was just passed yesterday, the day before, he will.
Yeah.
And it will be enacted into law. There will be an immediate lawsuit filed.
Sure.
Challenging the map. Immediate.
Yeah.
Okay. And so ultimately.
But it'll take that forever to get through, won't it?
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? But here's the deal. They can fast track it. They can. And they will ask the Florida Supreme Court to rule that does the map that the state of Florida and DeSantis, basically the Republicans, drew, does it violate Article 3, Section 20 of the Fair District Amendment passed in 2010.
Okay.
If the Florida Supreme Court, which I believe 6 of the members, if I'm not mistaken, you can Google this, were appointed by DeSantis,
Yeah.
rules that it does not violate the Florida Constitution, then maybe they'll try federal court. But you're right, that will take a while, and nothing quick happens. That the argument from DeSantis and the boys is that, well, because the Florida Supreme Court has, found that using race-based districts violates the Equal Protection Clause, other parts of the Fair District Amendment should also be considered invalid. So what DeSantis and the boys are saying, well, this part, which is a different section, by the way, because Section 21 violates the Equal Protection Clause, so does this one. Well, that's the argument anyway.
Yeah, right.
And and they're hoping the Florida Supreme Court agrees.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's just going to come down to.
I get it. Discrimination on race, sex, religion. Those are all kind of in our soul. You shouldn't do it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Now, the political, should you be able to draw maps? I don't think so, to be honest. But I think they should just be, if you're going to have 40 of them, it should be this area, this area, this area, not like you said, not the salamander.
Yeah. I've seen some of the maps.
We're going to include some area in Orlando, with an area over here in Pensacola.
Yeah.
I mean,
how is that a district? Yeah.
So, but I don't know. We'll find out. But I mean, here's the deal: all the other states are doing it. That does that mean you should? I don't know. But Virginia, Ohio, or Michigan was trying. Texas tried. California.
I mean, I've got
this,
opinions
that, and
too.
the other. It's a real cluster.
Yeah.
It really is. But anyway, so that's kind of what gerrymandering is. It is simply using, which you can't do anymore, using race to draw districts to get favorable representation. And also to use districts for political gerrymandering to get more representation as well. One of them, U.S. Supreme Court said, no, you can't do it. That's for race. That's now the law of the land. And we'll find out, because I guarantee you, Virginia was challenged by the opposition. I guarantee you, California was challenged by the opposition. Texas was challenged by the opposition. Florida be challenged by the opposition. At some point, I assume if the state Supreme Courts of each one of those states don't hold that it violates the Equal Protection Clause or some other clause in the Constitution, then the U.S. Supreme Court will ultimately decide.
Yeah. The more you mess with someone's control, the tighter they try to hold on to it. And this goes for left or right. And I just want to be a part of that free middle. I want that free middle, because these two ends are gonna. I've heard people talk about the horseshoe, effect, and it's not about Republican, Democrat. When you mess with someone's power, regardless, they want to hold on to it tighter. And the key. I
mean, look at Iran.
Yeah. And the key becomes,
the people want a free democratic state. The people in power, not so much. Look at Cuba. And we're off topic. Okay, so we're done with gerrymandering. Cuba, the people want a free Cuba. The powers that be that's held it for however long, they do not want that. So I agree.
Right. And in the middle of that power struggle, not every idea is a good idea. So you have places like Seattle where they defunded the police and then crime skyrocketed. And then they go, wait a minute, let's refund the police, and crime goes down. And then the new mayor comes in and she's like, boycott Starbucks. So Starbucks moves its office to Tennessee.
Oh, can we see this?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the bell curve.
Yeah. Right.
freaks over here on one side, the
Yeah.
freaks over here on the other,
Yes.
and all the rest of us.
The ones in the middle.
I learned that in one of my education classes.
There you go.
And
We just want to be
basically,
free, dude.
America is more or less the bell curve. And if the freaks could just
Chill out.
yeah, then
Chill out.
or just
Yeah.
go bye-bye.
Or
Then
the people in the middle can understand that your freedoms are critical and
Right.
to speak up for them and be informed about them. That's so important. It's
Yeah.
so important. And it's not about
Well,
playing for your team.
Yeah.
It's not about picking one of the extremes.
So
Be in
that's
fight for your freedoms, period.
right. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, anyway, Jason,
All
I
right,
can
all
go
right,
on
all right.
forever on that because.
Sorry.
But either way, so the gerrymandering is simply that. It is a
Yeah.
way to basically divide up your state to get more representation for one party or the other. That's the bottom line. As
Yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, and that's the bottom line.
Yes.
All right, so I don't know about the rest of TV land, but it's Friday, 1:20. I'm having surgery on my shoulder next
Yes.
Thursday. So I don't know. Jason and he's got something going on as well next Friday.
We'll still be here though. We'll
Yeah, we might
prepare something.
tape a show on Tuesday or Wednesday. Other than that, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Live Feed Reed and myself for the next week or two. Hopefully, the next time you see me, not hopefully, I'll be up here with a little not cast, what
A
do you call
sling.
it? A sling on.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got fitted for that today. That sucked.
They're gonna
But either
build
way,
a cup holder
if
into it so you
you're
can
not
sip your mimosas.
I know, yeah. Well, I still got my right hand, baby.
There you go.
So speaking of that, it's 1:22. Hold on a second. Siri, what time is it currently in England?
In London, England.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's 6:22 in England. So I gotta say, I'm out.
Yep.
I'm about to go have a beer. And go Lightning. We need you to win in Montreal tonight, 7 o'clock. Take us out there, big fella.
You got it.
Reed and Reed, it's like having a lawyer in the family.